right, so moving on into volume two. It seems that Johan somehow has an ability to convince people to do his bidding, even though he doesn't really seem to be that rich. Which I don't really know anything about Johan. You don't really know that much information as far as how he paid these people, but he basically ended up paying two cops to end up killing his sister's foster parents. Which I'm not sure. As I said, I don't know where he's getting all this money from, but hopefully we get some more insight as far as that goes. Um, Outside of that, Timma in the beginning of the volume is in a position where he's given the opportunity to choose to save a terrorist or to not save a terrorist. And he ends up actually choosing to save the terrorist, which I think is actually pretty interesting because the reason he chooses this is because he sees the humanity in the terrorist. And obviously, this whole thing is building up to if Timma, when he comes across Johan, will end up killing Johan. And because he did this, I wonder if he actually will go ahead and do that. But it does give pretty interesting insight, maybe foreshadowing type thing going on right there. And then we also learn more info on Johan's past as far as like his childhood and how they basically wanted to create psychopaths. They was like in like a group of creating child psychopaths in the future. So yeah. And then we also learn about Johan's relationship, more about his relationship with his sister, as far as how they grew up. And it also shows how like his sister and Johan eventually end up getting separated, and that is probably like a big catalyst as to why Johan is the person that he is today at the time of this volume. And then moving on, there's also someone trying to end up creating another Johan, but ends up failing. And that character who actually they want to create another Johan with actually becomes a companion of Dr. Timma, which seems like he'll be pretty interesting as the volume goes on, as the volumes go on into the future. But the most important thing is about how Johan wants to eliminate the human race, and he believes that like humans are destined to kill each other. Where it literally says he believes humans are destined to kill each other. And I feel like this is kind of interesting because Timma, as I said before, is basically a saint. And then at this point, like I have like a theory where like the Johan's plan is to convince Dr. Timma once he, I'm assuming at some point he's gonna realize that Dr. Timma is chasing him, is that he's gonna try to convince Dr. Timma to actually he wants Dr. Timma to actually kill him, and he wants for Dr. Timma to actually continue on with his legacy after he dies. That's basically what I feel like Johan's plan is at this point. Because as I said, like his whole ideology, his whole existence rests on the fact that humans are destined to kill each other. And if Johan doesn't convince Dr. Timma to kill each other, like his point of living is just eliminate. And at that point, I feel like he'll just commit suicide. Yeah, that is basically my theory at this point right here. But yeah, moving on into the other parts of the volume, there's like the whole Dr. Schumann arc, which is basically a doctor who's similar to Dr. Timma in the way that how Dr. Timma like generally just cares for his patients because he's just a good guy, and Dr. Schumann, he like subconsciously does the same thing as well, but it's kind of just like just passes through. It's kind of interesting because towards the end of the volume or towards the end of the whole arc, Dr. Schumann wants for a Dieter to help Dr. Timma not end up actually killing Johan. He doesn't actually know who Johan is at this point, but he doesn't want Dr. Timma to go down a bad path because he generally believes Dr. Timma, not Johan. He generally believes Dr. Timma is a good person, so he wants for Dieter to protect Dr. Timma from becoming corrupt when he actually ends up taking the life of Johan. But as I say, he doesn't actually know who Johan is. But towards the end of the volume, we also get an update on Eva, who is for some reason, even though I feel like she knows that Dr. Timma didn't actually do it, she's still in the idea that Dr. Timma actually ended up killing her parents and basically kind of ruining her life in some sense because she's like down like a bad path at this point. She's like alcoholic and she's like in her house and she like ends up actually burning her house because she's just set on finding Dr. Timma because she's just so convinced that Dr. Timma actually killed his parents. But I said actually killed her parents. But I said I don't feel like she actually believes that. But we will learn more information as the volumes continue and hopefully we get some more stuff as far as that goes. But yeah, it's basically the end of the volume. Also, towards the end of the volume, there's a group who basically wants Johan to become their superior race type leader. But I said Johan believes in the idea that all humans are basically evil and they are destined to kill each other. So Johan does not fall down this path, and that group basically just ends up getting wiped out. Honestly, I feel like the whole arc of that group is kind of boring, and it kind of left like it's like that part just like progressed very slowly. In my opinion, it might not have progressed that slowly, but I feel like it was just like super slow and kind of boring towards that part. But as I said, Johan is of the idea that all humans are evil and he wants to be the last human standing, so they end up getting wiped out. But yeah, that's basically it on them. They didn't really do anything as far as that goes, because like Tima and the whole group basically stopped everything that they were trying to do. Also, towards the end of this volume, there's shown that there's a possibility that Johan actually has two personalities. I'm not sure how this will actually help progress the story, but I guess we will see in the future volumes. But yeah, moving on to volume 3. All right, so I don't know why I decided that I didn't want to record anything until like something just happened where I actually want to talk about it. So basically, I went all the way up until volume 6 where that something did end up happening. I want to talk about, I guess, volumes 3, 4, and 5. I feel like out of all of them, I would say 3 was the weakest, and then probably 5. 5 was like kind of boring, like the side story in it. I felt was kind of boring as far as like the guy, completely forget his name. He has a big back, and yeah, he was there around the time that one guy got killed. But starting off with volume 3, we basically just get into the idea that people can come to the conclusion that Johan is responsible for the murders, and then that same thing carries on into volume 5 or volume 4, and then it just continues. Well, it hasn't continued from there actually, because Dr. Tim actually ended up finding Johan, and then it was kind of weird. I feel like the story was built. I'm not completely sure what the story is building up to anymore, which is why I didn't want to record anything. It seems like the story is building up to Dr. Tim eventually coming to a conclusion that he's actually going to have to kill somebody, and he like actually kills somebody, but he doesn't actually kill Johan, which is kind of weird. I don't know. As I said, I felt like it was building up to Dr. Tim like convincing himself that he would have to kill Johan, but he's not. I'm not. He doesn't even want to be called Dr. Tima. I'm gonna just call him Tima from now on because that's what he wants to be called. But Tima, at this point, I'm not completely sure where the story is actually building up to, but yeah, Tima actually ends up killing Roberto, which is a guy that Johan was working with. I'm not completely sure what their relationship was. We got like one line of dialogue as far as what their relationship was, but it doesn't really make sense to me. I feel like it deserved more of a backstory because it seemed like Roberto was like a big factor. I was like one of the main people that were working with Johan, but I wish that it got more backstory. I doubt that it will at this point because it's like the story's completely moved on from Roberto since Tima did end up killing him. But yeah. Also, Johan had this weird thing where he was like having kids like play death games. I didn't really know why. I'm still like there was like a lot of parts where I was just like kind of confused about. Maybe I'm just like not smart enough to understand what's going on. But like yeah, that also happens, and then some other things like volume 5, I would say I had like the weaker of the side stories. I will say like the volumes like consistently have like a decent side story where like volume 1 has like the old girl, or not the old girl, the old man and the little girl in that one, and then volume 2 I believe has the guy in the village where, or not in the village, he's like in the town and talks to him and eventually goes over to save him. Volume 3, I completely forget what volume 3 has, but volume 4, I think has something. I completely forget what it has as well. But the point is that the side stories, there was like a side story in each volume, which was like pretty decent. And then volume 5, which is the one that I just now read, had the one where at least neither one of the volumes, it had one about Tima and the doctor that's also Asian, like they're helping like immigrants because they can't actually go to the doctor. So yeah, that was all the side stories have been interesting. I will say the volume 5 did not have an interesting side story at all. As I said, with the whole guy with the big bag. So yeah, but yeah, basically what interesting that ended up happening is that Johan is actually able to wear a disguise of his twin sister, and like that's made me want to come back and give you guys an update because that's where I am right now, and that's like the most interesting thing that has happened. Even though like Tima technically did end up killing somebody, or and like some stuff, other stuff happened. Like I feel like it wasn't really that interesting in that moment, but I feel like that's the most interesting thing that happened so far. And I don't know, maybe like the story was supposed to like get like climax right there, and then get continue to go on, but it seemed like it like really slowed down after that point. But yeah, I'll continue reading it. I'm almost done. As I said, I'm on volume 6 right now, and as I said, Johan actually was like posing as his twin sister the whole time. Well, not the whole time, but for like the past couple volumes. So I was like, I legit thought that was Anna. I will say, I don't really like the small world type things, but it kind of makes sense in this context because it feels like the characters are like meeting based on coincidence. Like just the characters come across each other based on coincidence. But it doesn't really seem like that anymore because Johan was actually what's the name, his twin sister, and that it makes more sense why he came into contact with the whole police force, and because he's trying to gather information about something. I'm not completely sure what he's trying to gather information about, but he just doesn't want information to get out. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on into when I give you guys an update again. Okay, I'm actually not done because I'm just like completely confused as to what Johan's actual goals are. I have no clue what Johan wants to actually do. Um, at the beginning, it said that he wants to like basically just take over the world, be the last human standing. I don't really know how this helps. It seems like he's trying to stop the information coming out about how he was created basically, and he's also framing his sister, which initially like you thought that Johan cared for his sister a lot, but like I'm just now remembering that as he was like posing as Anna, he actually ended up killing somebody like in the pretty open public, and it's not like people can put dots together, and it seems like they're actually able to in the situation. That's very possible for them to get found out. So I'm completely like don't know what's going on with Johan as far as what his intentions are. Hopefully by the end of this volume, I actually do know what's going on. But yeah, well, as I said, we'll continue, and then I'm not gonna like just end reading it. I'll come out as I said, I'm almost done, but yeah, we'll continue. Okay, so I just finished volume six and I actually have some things I want to talk about. The first thing is that I feel like it's the first time I ever seen Johan do something like truly evil, where it's like this guy's like actually like type evil type thing, where like anybody could kill somebody. Like Johan's killed a lot of people, or he's supposed to have killed a lot of people, but like this is the first time where he did something that's like actually evil. He like basically tried to convince a kid to self delete. If you guys know what I'm talking about in the volume, basically the kid is looking for his mother. His mother was a prostitute, and he doesn't actually know what it. Well, he assumes he knows what his mother looks like, but he goes about the whole thing, and then Johan's like, "Yo, go over there to like this whole like bad area where it's like whole bunch of prostitutes, whole bunch of violence, whole bunch of crimes and all that." He leads the kid over there to find his mother, and then like basically. He's like, if you can't find your mother, then that means no one wants you. And then the kid was basically about to kill himself. I feel like that's the most evil thing Johan has done. Like considering he's killed like all these people, but I feel like that's the most evil thing he's done throughout the whole volume. Where I can see why like Johan is like a really good antagonist, or he is a decent antagonist at the very least. But yeah, moving on. Outside of that, I will not to say like killing people isn't evil, but like I hope you guys get the point as for what I'm trying to say. But moving on, outside of that, I feel like this is the type of story where like you're not really meant to know what's going on right now because like I'm still highly confused as like far as like the whole investigation of Johan because it seems like they're trying to make you learn the events as far as like what led up to Johan right now and apparently his sister as well because were there at the same time. So they want to make you learn the events of what led up to what's happening right now. So I don't really feel like I'm meant to get the point of what's going on because like they're talking about like whole like author like I might have mentioned this already, but like, at some point in the previous volumes like Johan collapsed and because he like saw his picture from like a book and they're like really diving into his book. It's basically about a monster who just eats everything and he takes the name and then at the end of the story like he basically ends up eating everything and the name that final name he took I'm guessing was Johan and that's like the name of the main character. I'm assuming Johan isn't his real name. I actually don't know if Johan is. I'm assuming Johan isn't his real name. But moving on, outside of that, the other thing I want to talk about is Timma actually got arrested. This is actually crazy. I did not think he would get arrested. I feel like that it would be like one of those things where like Timma just like evades the cops the whole series, and then at the end like what's the name? He like finally turns Johan in like, oh, Timma didn't actually do anything, and then the story just ends right there. But like he actually got arrested. I was not expecting for him to get arrested. Right now he's actually arrested. It's actually kind of crazy. Like, I'm kind of excited to read on because I have no clue how he's about to get out. The plan was for the other guy. I completely forget his name. Who was a spy and who was also in Kinderheim. I'm also not completely sure what happened in Kinderheim either because I was under the assumption like basically all the kids in Kinderheim actually died. There's like apparently like multiple survivors from that because there was the guy from Volume 5 who what's the name? Richard actually killed when he was like 16, I believe. He was like young, he was a teenager, and Richard actually ended up killing him. And then there was this guy right now who's a spy who's also in Kinderheim, and apparently there's also I'm not sure if that other guy's nephew might have been there as well, but there are very small Kinderheim who actually made it out. I assume that everybody just got killed. That's why I assume from earlier in the volumes when what's the name? Dieter was there with that other guy, and I assume that all those people just died from Kinderheim, but apparently that's not the case. But yeah, that's basically it. Also, last thing I want to mention, this picture of Johan's sister is creepy. Like I'm gonna show you the guys' picture on the screen right now. This picture is creepy. That's the last thing I want to mention. But yeah, let's go and move on into the next time I want to talk about this series.